Hello everyone. This show is all about Black history because this is Black History Month. I have on the show Kenneth E. from Universal Elite Aerospace. He's a pilot, one of few. He has a great story. I definitely want you guys to hear it. We also have Dr. Florita Bell Griffin. She's the author of the book, Little Flower. You guys stick around. You don't want to miss this show. Phelps Show. We are celebrating Black History Month. My guest today is Mr. Kenneth E.Morris. Kenneth, welcome to the show, man.
All right, thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, the viewers don't know much about you, but we're going to educate them a little bit about Mr. Morris today.
Okay.
Now, you're the owner of the Universal Elite Aerospace.
Yes, sir. I am.
Which is?
Basically, it's an aviation STEM program designed to get in touch with the disengaged youth and teens around Houston and expose them to more careers besides basketball, football, and what they typically see on TV. I teach them about aviation and aerospace and all the fun you can have, and it's a lot of money to be made as well. So
yeah,
it's a life-changing career choice, and I show them firsthand that if I can do it, they can do it. I come from where they come from.
Right.
I look how they look and think how, well, you know, the way they think now, I may have thought like that, and, you know, I show them that process.
Right, right. So in other words, these kids are able to identify with you.
Definitely. They definitely identify. It's been rewarding, to say the least. It's been rewarding. So.
And you know what? I find it very interesting that you're in aviation, because you don't actually hear of a lot of African Americans that are involved in aviation and that type of thing. Now, what actually got you involved in aviation?
Believe it or not, I had no idea that I wanted to fly airplanes.
Okay.
My first time on an airplane, I was 18 years old going to boot camp in the Navy. So I had no plans to become a pilot or a mechanic or anything like that.
Okay.
I took a test to get into the military, and you only needed a 35 to pass. The highest you could make was a 99. I made a 76, which was pretty high.
Okay.
I had all these jobs that I could choose from, and then there was a job sitting over here on the side.
Okay.
And the detailer was saying, okay, well, you can pick mechanic, you can be a cook, you can be all these things.
Right.
And I asked him, so what is this job over here? He said, well, I don't know much about it, but I know it involves flying, looking for submarines, and it's a bunch of traveling. 90% of the people that try this job fail.
Okay.
You probably won't make it. So I said, okay, well, I'll take that job.
Wow, interesting, interesting. You know what? And a lot of times when you take that road untraveled, it can be a good thing.
Oh, yes.
Because not only does it it creates an opportunity for success, but it also puts you in a different category.
Definitely.
You're not blending in with the rest of them. You
Exactly.
know, if that makes any sense.
Oh, yes.
Well, you know what? I'm having a great time talking to you, and I'm looking forward to the audience learning a lot more about Mr. Kenneth Morris. We're going to be back in just a moment. You guys stick around. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to this edition of the Ferrell Phelps Show as we're celebrating Black History Month. Now, Kenneth, when we left off, we were talking about what you do.
Yes, sir.
And how you became interested in it. Now, I know you have a very interesting story as to what propelled you into this particular industry. Tell me a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, like I said, I'm from the Fifth Ward area. There we didn't get the opportunity to go to aviation camps or anything at the airport. If it wasn't basketball or football or something we saw on TV, you know, that's pretty much was our dream. So I went to the military 3 weeks out of high school. Didn't get a chance to enjoy summer break or anything like that. And
okay.
Immediately I was in the midst of grown men in the military, so I had to mature pretty quickly.
Okay.
That was probably the best decision I ever made, was going to the military. I didn't have that structure when I was growing up. And I grew up in a home like my grandmother raised me. You know, I'm the only boy. I got 4 younger sisters.
Wow.
So, you know, it was a difficult time sometimes. And, I went through and got promoted the first time up for the first 4 years of my career. So I made E5 in about 3 years. It normally takes 6 or 7.
Okay.
So everything went well, and I enjoyed it, and I traveled the world, and it was great. And after I separated from the military, I actually received a scholarship to go play basketball in Kansas, and I got my degree in computer information systems.
Really?
So had I not done that, had I not taken that military route, there's no telling where I would have ended up. And after I graduated college, I did have a son. I was 25 years old at the time. I had my son, my only son, and his mother, who was a military veteran. She had brain surgery at the VA.
Okay.
And, she was at the age of 26 at the time.
Okay.
And she's been 100% disabled since then. So I've been forced to, not forced, I've been blessed to have to take care of her because I learned a lot about myself in that process. So she was hospitalized for about 13 months. And that's when the idea, I said, I love helping people. It's just in me. And I love aviation. So that's how I combine the two. Why not help the youth and the teens learn all of these things that I was taught for free? I'm going to transfer that information to them and give them a brighter future as well.
Wow. Wow. I think that certainly deserves that round of applause that it just received. And you know, it's so good to see role models in our communities that make a difference, and we don't see that often.
Yes.
And it's important that we have that, and it's important that they see other people besides athletes or basketball players or football players, or, you know, because we have so much more in us than athleticism, if that makes any sense.
Exactly.
But to see you doing that and see the perseverance that you had to have had in order for you to take care of the mother of your child while she had gone through, that says a lot about the character that your grandmother apparently instilled in you.
Oh, yes, sir. I love my grandmother. Like I said, my family, I have a really good family, really supportive family. When my worst times and my most difficult times were there, they were there to support me, and that was instrumental. Yeah,
yeah. Now tell me this. You have one son, you said.
I do.
Is your son interested in the same industry?
Ironically, he's 10 years old. He's flown probably 5 different aircraft by himself at 10 years old.
Wait.
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah.
Say that again?
He's 10 years old, and he's flown 5, 6 different aircraft already. He started flying at the age of 9.
Wow. Okay, wow.
Yeah. Like I say, and the reason that is he goes to school in 5th Ward at Atherton Elementary School. Regular kid. The reason he has that drive, he has that exposure and access. When I'm at the airport, he's at the airport. So if I'm going flying, we'll get up to about 6,000 or 7,000 feet. I let go of the plane and he flies it. It's really that simple. But kids don't know that because they don't have anybody coming out taking them flying. So it can be done.
I'm still lost and stuck on this 9-10-year-old kid flying the plane. I can't even think about anything else.
Yeah. We got video, we got photos. Wow. And you asked me, was that his interest? Ironically, he's a basketball fan, and he did say if he didn't make it to the NBA, he wants to take over my company. So I took that as a compliment. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That company being Universal Elite Aerospace.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And now, when was that company first formed?
November 12th, 2013. So 11/12/13 was the actual launch date of the company.
Yeah.
11/12/13.
Wow. So how do you go about actually getting children involved in what you're doing?
Well, the company first started because I took my son and a couple of his friends to the airport.
Okay.
And they enjoyed themselves, and I enjoyed telling them the history of the 1940 Air Terminal Museum at Javier Airport. And then I took them to Millionaire and Signature, which are the private facilities where the celebrities fly in, and the athletes, and they saw that as well. And they had a good time, and I could kind of tell that I'd opened up their minds a little bit. They went back and told their friends. So the following week, I probably had about 6 or 7 kids.
Okay.
And we went out, and the parents were supportive. They said, you know what, that's a good idea. So they told their cousins. And then when they got back to school, they were telling the teachers.
Okay.
So we took the kids flying one weekend, and they were in the plane taking selfies at about 6,000 or 7,000 feet. And then when they told the teachers, I flew a plane this weekend, the teacher's like, no, you didn't fly a plane this weekend. I said, yeah, here are the pictures right here. So then the teacher started calling, well, can we get the kids to come out to field trips? And it spread like wildfire to that.
Wow.
So, yeah, so that's how it started.
Wow. Phenomenal. That's awesome. That's awesome. You know, oftentimes I say each one reach one. If each one of us can reach somebody else along our journey, along our path, then it can make a huge difference in their world. And for you to have started that project, and for people, the kids actually, to get involved and get excited and come back and tell somebody about it and say, hey, I want to do this, and they're showing these photographs, you can't help but to create a whole different environment for these children to desire to be in, you know, through aeronautics and through what you're doing. Now, how difficult would it be for me to fly a plane?
As easy as you drove your car.
Come on, man.
I'm telling you.
Really? You know, one of the things when I look at the dashboard of an airplane, I instantly get confused. There are so many gauges and numbers and lights. It's like, what in the world is this, and how does anybody understand it?
Yeah, and we don't. They don't put us in a room and make us learn that all the time. It's called compartmentalization. So we'll learn 6 gauges at a time.
Okay.
These 6 gauges might control the altitude or the rate of climb or descent or the turns. So you don't learn it all at once. You just take little bitty pieces, and then you learn that piece, and then you go to the next one, and you combine those 2. And you see, it does take studying. It's not the easiest thing to learn all of them.
Okay.
It takes a while, but if you can learn math and you can learn any other subject, you can learn to fly a plane. It's not rocket science.
Okay. And you know, that's interesting that you should say that, because I've always thought it was rocket science. Rocket science. I mean, literally, when I look at it, I'm so confused by it, and I'm not good at math, y'all. So I don't know if I'll ever be flying. Well, I'll fly, but I'll be in a craft with somebody who knows their math and knows how to fly and is in aviation.
Yeah.
I would love to at some point experience being in a plane with you.
Oh yeah, that's not a problem. That's not a problem. We actually have events. Throughout the month, we do private events and we do large events for school. We've done as many as 150 kids. We do small events as few as 3. I've been to churches where I'll go out and talk to 3 kids, if that's the case. If that's what it takes to get them kids to, you know, gravitate to something else that's more positive, I'll come out and talk to 1 if need be. So, yeah, it's not a problem to set that up. The website is www.universalelite.org. You can go on there. There's a information section where you can put in your name, and in the comments section you can put exactly what you want. You can't be too detailed. So if you're looking to come out and experience the tour, or experience you know, aerospace engineering or anything like that, we have that. We'll accommodate those needs as well.
Yeah, man, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. You know, something that you just said that really that stuck out to me. That stood out rather to me when you said, even if there's 1 child, I'll go out and talk to that 1 child. And sometimes that's all it takes is that 1. It starts with 1. You know, you can't say, okay, oh, there's not a big group of people there, or there's not this or that. If there's 1 child who has that interest, Mr. Morris is willing to go out and talk to that 1 kid. Again, that says a lot about the man that Mr. Morris is, and I certainly think you deserve a round of applause for that, man. And it shows also your loyalty and dedication to what you believe in.
Oh, definitely.
And it's where your heart is as well, man. You know, it's always great to learn more. And right now I'm in the process of learning more. I never thought I'd be sitting with someone who was a black pilot who's doing what you do. And I'm actually sitting here with you right now having this discussion and dialogue that's going to bless those young kids when they get to see this this show.
Okay, good. Like I said, I'm in the same neighborhood as them. I still live in the 5th Ward area. I didn't move out to the suburbs.
Wow.
And, you know, I'm right here planted next to you. So if there's ever an opportunity, you know, like I said, I do mentoring as well because I was there. I know what it's like not to have $1 in your pocket. So I can relate to, you know, the issues with my father not always being there to talk to, and my mother not being there. And, you know, if I know the downside, but if you have that outlet, that positive outlet, it can change everything for a child.
It absolutely can. You know what? We're going to keep finding out what it can change for that child when we return in just a moment with more of the Ferrell Phelps Show. You guys stick around. We'll be back.
SkyTrue's custom eyewear has taken the world by storm. In only 8 months, SkyTrue's has gained the eyes of many, including celebs like Big Sean, Little Flip, Destiny's Child, Soulja Boy, just to name a few. Through custom designs, SkyTrue's can put your imagination on your frames. I bring to you the next big thing in Houston, SkyTrue's, created by Golden Boy, the musician, the artist, the entrepreneur, and grassroots marketing genius. Be inspired. SkyTrue's, custom designed frames. SkyTrue!
All right, welcome back to this edition of the Ferrell Phelps Show, where my guest today is Mr. Kenneth Morris. You know, Kenneth, one of the purposes of the show is to educate, motivate, and inspire people. I certainly feel like you have done that today in everything that you are saying to the people that have the opportunity to be in earshot of this show. Now, one of the things that I learned from our dialogue was how you was discouraged by a Caucasian man as it relates to the possibilities of becoming who you've become today. Tell me a little bit about that story.
Okay. Well, my original recruiter, he was an African-American guy, Mr. Roosevelt. He encouraged me every step of the way because I was a regular high school student. I wasn't in the Gifted and Talented program. I wasn't in Vanguard or Magnet School or anything like that.
Okay.
I was one of the regular kids. And going to Jones High School, it was a lot of us. It was a lot of regular kids. And the Navy recruiter was the only one to come. We didn't have an Air Force or Marine or Army. The Navy recruiter was the only one to come. And he didn't come for me. He came for somebody else. And it was just one of those days I was like, let me just talk to him and see what he has to say, you know.
Yeah.
And I ended up building a great friendship and bond with him. And like I said, I took the test and I did really well on the test. And actually it made me take it again because they thought maybe it was something fishy, but I did.
Because you did so well.
I did better the second time. And he passed me off to another recruiter because it was only so far he could take me. Okay. So he's the recruiter to get me in and get my documents and everything situated. But we have a detailer. A detailer is the guy who says, well, you've done all this, all your checks are, you know, here, pick the job you want. So I'm a young kid, 18 years old, and like I said, I had all these jobs. I could have been a cook, a mechanic. I could have been the guy scrubbing the side of the boat. Right. You know, and those jobs were right here in front of me. And like I say, he had this one job over here, and when I asked about it, he just knew that I wouldn't be able to make it through that particular field because 90% of the people that try, they fail. And he assumed that just from looking at me and from the school that I came from in South Park, and you know, we didn't have the highest academic record or anything like that. And I took that as a personal challenge that you don't even know me, but you're going to tell me I'm going to fail. So I want to pursue that and not only prove to you, but prove to myself that I can do anything I put my mind to it.
Yeah. You know, and that is so important, believing that you can achieve anything that you put your mind to. And everything starts with the mind. Definitely. You know, and how we see ourselves. Definitely. It all makes a huge difference in how we accomplish our goals that we set forth with ourselves. You know, I've heard a lot of people who have become successful say that someone told them that they could not do it. And that was the motivating factor for them doing it. Exactly. Just to prove that I too can do this, and I will prove to you that I can make this happen. And again, you're a great role model because of the things that you've done. I certainly applaud you, and I say continue to move forward in what it is that you're doing. You're doing a dynamic job. I'm glad to have you right here talking to you today. I'm certainly honored by that. Now, when we talk about future, what type of goals do you have for Universal Elite Aerospace? Okay.
The bigger picture is my ultimate goal is to open my own aviation school or a school, Universal Elite Aerospace Academy, where we're not only going to teach about aviation. That'll be one of the goals, but we're also going to teach about life skills and decision making, and it'll start with the inner city youth. A lot of kids who just don't have those opportunities or exposure to different careers, and it's not going to be a group that comes in and pulls you out. We're actually going to stay together. We're going to teach unity and teach people how to, you know, love one another, and it's basically become more well-rounded people. And we're going to have a lot of fun doing it. So we'll have a lot of opportunities to fly celebrities different places. We'll see them before they go to their big shows and become friends with them and things like that, and earn a really good living at the same time. So we do have a aerospace camp. My first one is coming up for spring break. Okay. Yeah, okay. I started 1 year ago. But awesome. So from the camp, we hope to develop a school, which will probably be a charter school. Okay. It's gonna be a top tier school with the best airplanes, the best mechanics, the best teachers. Wow. And start right here in Houston.
How phenomenal is that? Wow. And so, where would you recruit from?
We started inside the loop, but we've been
inside the loop.
Inside the loop.
Okay, so the inner city.
Yeah, we started in the inner city and the reason, I mean, I will go to different locations because I know kids need it everywhere. Right. And the reason I start with the inner city is because that's where I came from. I relate to them very well. When they look at me, they see their brothers. Yeah. I look at them and I see myself. So you know, that's where I started at. But I've been a keynote speaker at Purdue University in Indiana in their aviation department. So I've gone to Indiana, I've gone to Atlanta with this message. So there's no limit to where I'll go. If I go to Hawaii, if they want me. So. Wow.
Wow. Again, I say it's amazing how you navigate through life when you have a purpose and a passion in what it is that you're doing, and you want to make a difference. And that's what it's all about. Life is about making a difference, and you're certainly making a difference with the things that you're doing. Thank you. With the youth, man, because we need that. You know, we need to see people that look like us. doing different things that are not typical for us.
Exactly.
As you are doing. Now, you also mentioned the number of pilots that actually exist. The number of African American pilots in ratio to our counterparts is...
it's very small, to say the least. If there's approximately 72,000 licensed commercial pilots, maybe 2,000 are African American. We probably equate to about 2 or 3%, if that, of all pilots are African American. Maybe 4% are Hispanic, and then 1.5% are women. So that entire 95% are all Caucasian men. So there's no reason why we can't do it. The reason that they're not obtaining these jobs are the lack of exposure and access. And then with the baby boomers retiring, there are going to be so many jobs opening up in the airline pilots and air traffic controllers. Why not groom the kids now for these jobs and, you know, potentially change their entire life?
And get them. So you are a visionary. You know, and it takes being a visionary to make these type of things work. Man, thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the Ferrell Phelps Show. And for more information on you, how do they find out more about?
Okay, I'm on all the social media sites, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Our website is www.universalelite.org. My direct email is ceo@universalelite.org. And we respond pretty much within about 24 hours.
Okay.
If I can, I'm going to call you directly. Once you fill out the information, you're going to put your phone on. And people get surprised all the time when I call them and say, hey, did you just email me?
Right.
You know, they think that I'm very personable. And like I say, anything I can do to help, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah, man, that's what it's all about. Man, thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the Ferrell Phelps Show. Now, we're going to be back in just a moment with another guest, author Dr. Florita Griffin. Stick around. We'll be back in just a moment. As promised, welcome back to the show of my guest, Dr. Florita Bell Griffin. Dr. Griffin, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mr. Phelps.
Absolutely. You know, I have been so excited to get you on the Ferrell Phelps Show. You know, we've talked about it for a minute, and time just didn't permit, but today is that perfect day.
Yes, indeed.
You know, and I say it all the time, God's timing is perfect. Now, I know a lot about you. But they may not know a lot about you. Tell me a little bit about Dr. Florita Bell Griffin. Okay.
I grew up in Wadesboro, North Carolina, and moved to Texas when I was 26 years old.
Okay.
Got married before I moved to Texas, and then we went to Texas A&M, and both of us got our doctorate degrees, and then life marched on.
And then life marched on.
Yes.
Now, you actually penned a book.
Yes, indeed.
Entitled Little Flower, Vignette, Story Behind the Story. Now, I know that that's a very interesting book, and it was given birth through your life experience with your dad.
Yes, indeed. The Little Flower Vignettes is the story of my story of growing up as a preacher's daughter.
Okay.
And I was born in the early 60s, and my dad was a Baptist minister and a civil rights leader and a businessman.
Okay.
And so and my mother was my first grade school teacher. And so our life was quite interesting. But I penned this book because I wanted to share a part of my story that kind of followed me a great part of my life. When my mother was my first grade teacher, but we were in segregated schools, and my father was fighting and marching for integration.
Okay.
And we knew that by the time I got in the 3rd grade, the schools were going to be integrated. So in the 2nd grade, they allowed me to go to the white school because my best friend had already transitioned, and they allowed me to go. Well, after about 6 weeks of being in the 2nd grade, the teacher called me over to the side, and she says, and she mispronounces my name, and she calls me Flita. My name is Florita. She said, Florita, you know too much to be in the 2nd grade. You need to wait on the other kids. And so, in the 2nd grade, I termed that I got dumbed down. Because when I finished my work, she would give me chores to do. So I would be sweeping the floor and dusting and waiting on the other kids. Well, by the time I went to the 3rd grade, integration had occurred, and all my friends from the 1st grade were then at the white school. I was dumb. I couldn't learn. My mind had completely shut down.
Are you serious?
Everybody was ahead of me. For the rest of my all the rest of the years, all the way through high school, I just couldn't get it. I made the grades, but I was not grasping the information, and I didn't have confidence in my ability to learn. Well, it came time to go to college, and I wanted to go to the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. My parents wanted me to go to Shaw University, where they went, but I didn't want to go to Shaw. I wanted to go to UNCG. And I prayed and prayed and prayed because I don't take tests well. And I prayed, and finally the letter came. And they accepted me into UNCG. And all of that is in this book. Well, 2.5 weeks into UNCG, I realized I was way in over my head.
Is that right?
Yes. And this was not going to prove that I wasn't dumb. But I was there, and my father had always taught me, you know, there are consequences to your decisions. So when you make a decision to do something, you've got to know there are consequences, and you've got to follow through. For whatever that is. For whatever that is. And so I made the decision to go to UNCG. I wanted to major in communications, broadcasting, which was my major. And I was basically on academic probation the whole while I was at UNCG.
Come on.
Lordy, Lordy. I was just trying to make seriously. That's what's in the book.
You know, which makes it a very interesting book to read. You know, I want to go back a little bit. When you talked about being in the 2nd grade and the experience of, you were actually smarter than a lot of the kids that were in that class. And you basically became a janitor in a lot of ways at that school as a 2nd grade kid.
Yes.
But what I wanted to make a point of was, even in the midst of them making you like a little janitor in the 2nd grade at the school, she maintained a in all of those classes.
Yes.
In the midst of all of what was going on in the 2nd grade. It did not defeat you.
No, it didn't. But the problem with making A's was that my parents didn't realize what was happening. So I've got A's on my report card. My mind has shut down, and we're just going on with life. And I'm just conflicted. And I'm the preacher's kid. I'm in the spotlight. My dad is doing all this. He's basically an overachiever. My mom's an overachiever. And I didn't really have a name. They just always called me Reverend Bell's daughter. And then
Reverend Bell. All right.
And then when my little sister came along, my name changed to Reverend Bell's oldest daughter. And so it was just, it's out of all of this that I write this book.
Yeah, and what an interesting read it is, your journey with your father, and then also the tragic story that took place with your father as well. There's so much that we can learn from reading this book. Now, the name Florita, it actually means little flower in Spanish, and you've actually done something with that name.
Yes, indeed. My husband, I got married at the age of 25. Actually, we didn't cover this part. I met my husband in Sunday school. Let me back up further. I accepted Christ as my personal Savior at the age of 25. A month later, on around my 25th birthday, I was a month before 25, but around my 25th birthday, I go to Sunday school and I meet this guy. And 17 days later, he asked to marry me. And we were married within 3 months.
Wow.
And we've been married 28 years.
You know, and that's a testament of what God puts together. You know, and you know people that date for 5, 10, 15 years and get married and divorced within 1 year.
Yeah.
You know, so for you to have had the longevity that you've had in your marriage is certainly an awesome, awesome thing.
And one of the things that we share is a love for art. And that's where Little Flower came from. We commissioned some art pieces to be made, and one of them was a picture of me at the age of 9, and we decided that we would basically build a franchise around her, and we've been working on this for years.
Right.
So what I did was I took this book with all of these stories, and there were just so many lessons to be learned, but to tell the story the way I'm telling it to you today, it's kind of heavy, you know, for little kids. So I had these stories written into children's books, so that the story of Little Flower and her father and her experience in school is told for kids that are 9, 10, 11, and 12 years old, so that they can learn the messages. And there are a lot of other messages to learn also. But and one of the core stories is about bullying.
But oh yeah, which is something I can't wait for us to talk about, because bullying is so prevalent in today's schools and society in general. So we got a lot to talk about when we come back.
Very good.
We're going to be back in just a moment with more of the Ferrell Phelps Show. You guys stick around. We'll be back. All right, welcome back to this edition of the Ferrell Phelps Show with my guest, Dr. Florita Bell Griffin. Now, when we left off, of course, we were talking about your book, your life, and things like that. Now, at the age of 25, something very tragic took place in your life. Tell me a little bit about that.
On March 29th, 1987, my dad preached Sunday morning service at our church, and we had family dinner after that. And then the following Monday morning, the next day, I received a call that he had been shot and was dead. And everything just changed after then.
Yeah.
You know, he was sitting at a garage getting his tires changed, and the shooter had an argument with the owner of the garage. And he came back and shot in from outside and hit my dad. My dad was the only one that died. One shot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that is actually the last vignette in here. But once you go through something like that, life kind of
looks different.
Looks different, you know, on the other side. And it was, you know, just the whole story of it was what I wanted to tell, from the childhood on to that phase, the first 25.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I want to go back a little bit. When we talked about being the daughter of an educator, number one, and being taught by her in school, and then having a father who was a civil rights activist as well as a minister, that had to be a little bit of pressure.
A lot of pressure.
I can only imagine what that must have been like. You know, and we oftentimes joke about preachers' kids, you know, and that type of thing. Now, what was life like for you being the kid of a preacher?
Well, you know, life wouldn't have been so stressful being a preacher's kid and a daughter of my first grade school teacher if my dad hadn't been a businessman. But he was a businessman, and he had a lot of businesses: a laundromat, a car lot, rental houses, and my siblings and I were his primary employees. So if we didn't have to work like we worked, we did everything from manning the laundromat, counting the coins from the washer and dryers, to painting houses, to whatever else he had. And we did, and we did a Sunday morning radio show We did it all, and we did it all for a very long time. So if we take all that out of it, being just a preacher's kid, you know,
a lot simpler,
a piece of cake. But when you put all of that in it, it was quite a bit much.
Right, right. Now, but from all of that, the book was born.
Right.
And your life experiences were born.
Exactly.
Right. Now, from this book, several other books have been derived. Now, tell me a little bit about your purpose and your inspiration with the books. I know your dad was one of them, but what do you want to do past that?
Well, what I want to do past that is stress the importance of art with kids. And I would like to show you something. I know I should have it on set and I shouldn't be moving, but could I just move and show you something?
Well, you know what? I wonder if Tony might be able to help us with that.
I certainly can.
Is it in a certain particular location?
Could you pass me that painting right there?
All right. Yeah, and this painting is very significant. It's the little black boy.
Yes.
Absolutely.
This is the painting that got me through those years that I was telling you about, when the teacher told me that I knew too much and then I was going through all those emotional things. This painting was given to me when I was going to the 3rd grade. And I've had this for 45 years.
Wow.
I have taken it to college. I've taken it everywhere I've gone. Because this little boy expresses how I felt all of that time. And although I'm an art collector now, this is my most prized possession. And I wanted to bring it to show it.
Yes.
And it was because of this that these were born.
Right.
I wanted to show that art could speak to children in a way that you know, other things might not reach them. Right. And whether it's books, whether it's music, whether it's dolls, whether it's the video game Minecraft, it's all art. And children respond to that.
And you know what? That's awesome. And children do certainly respond to art. And you never know how you can influence somebody at an early age by the things that you give them.
Yes.
Or the things that you expose them to. Now, from this one painting, Dr. Florita Bell Griffin was inspired. Not only inspired, but she could look at this and see herself. And it's so important that we can identify ourselves with something.
Yes.
Otherwise, we can feel lost.
Yes.
And feel like we're that only person. But when you see something that you can identify with.
Yes.
And not only that, but this painting has taken you literally through all of your years of living, rather.
Exactly.
And to me, that's a beautiful thing. And so I certainly want to applaud you for everything that you've done that was inspired by this. Because now the world gets to see all of this. Yes. You know, it always baffles me how one thing can change the life of people.
That's right.
One thing. And like I said a minute ago when we were talking to Kenneth E. each one reach one.
Exactly.
Somebody reached you one day and gave you this because they felt like it could be good for you.
Yes. And he didn't know. I doubt that the person that gave me that, one of our family friends, knew what I was going through and knew the confusion. But he gave me the gift and I was immediately drawn to it.
That is crazy.
And that's why all of this.
Wow. So that one person reached out to you with this, and now you're reaching out to millions,
I hope,
through the project and the books that you're doing. You're definitely doing that. Art plays such a huge part in our world, and you actually have become an art enthusiast.
Yes.
Now define exactly what an art enthusiast is.
An art enthusiast, well, I guess it's different things to different people.
Yes.
But for me, it means that I have an appreciation for all types of cultural art expression. And I say cultural art because with cultural art comes the story. And that's why Little Flower is so important, because Little Flower allows me to tell my story.
Yes.
But there will be other children in the Little Flower series that weren't preachers' kids. There's one little girl whose father was a military man in Vietnam, and he met her mom, and so her story is told as being a mixed Vietnamese and African-American child.
Okay.
There's another little boy in the series from Tanzania.
Okay.
And his story is told with the elephants. But it's basically that children are children no matter where they live. Their cultures are just different.
Right.
But many of their issues are the same. And that's what we hope, that Little Flower will just, you know, allow...
Speak to the hearts of the children.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and you know what? One of the things that you address also in the project that you have here is bullying.
Yes.
Yes. And now, is there a reason why bullying was one of your topics? Were you perhaps bullied?
Well,
or is it something that you identified in today's society that needed to be addressed?
Well, I consider what the teacher did to me as bullying.
That was certainly
because bullying comes in many different forms.
Right.
And so, whereas I wasn't bullied by other children, I felt that was bullying, and I felt the pain. But the story of Little Flower starts with Little Flower watching her father in the civil rights movement and how he was fighting for the rights of people. So that became, you know, her mindset. Well, she has a friend at school who has physical disabilities, and the kids are picking on her friend. So Little Flower stands up for her friend because she interprets what her father is doing as being something that she should be doing in school, and she does it the wrong way because she doesn't understand what she's supposed to do, and she gets in trouble. And so this whole series walks kids through how to handle things the right way. So by the time you get here, Little Flower has learned that the way she did it in this book, which was book 1, wasn't the correct way, but the way she's doing it by book 3, she's still achieving the purpose that she wanted to have.
But the right way.
But the right way.
And you know what? That's awesome, because with everything that we learn, there's a process.
Exactly.
And a lot of times in our younger age, we might make certain mistakes, but as we grow and get older and get wisdom, we learn to do things the right way. Obviously, that's what you're talking about right here.
Exactly.
In this series of books.
And a lot of times, adults don't understand that kids don't see it. They haven't had those life experiences, and they don't see things the way that adults do.
They don't.
So if you want to teach them the lessons, you have to speak the language that they understand.
You have to speak the language that they understand. And you know what? We're going to speak a little bit more of that language that they understand when we return in just a moment with more of Dr. Florita Bell Griffin.
Sky Trues custom eyewear has taken the world by storm. In only 8 months, Sky Trues has gained the eyes of many, including celebs like Big Sean, Little Flip, Destiny's Child, Soulja Boy, just to name a few. Through custom design, Sky Trues can put your imagination on your frames. I bring to you the next big thing in Houston, Sky Trues, created by Golden Boy, the musician, the artist, the entrepreneur, and grassroots marketing genius. Be inspired. Sky Trues, custom designed frames. Sky Trues.
All right, welcome back to this edition of the Ferrell Phelps Show. You know, my guest today is Dr. Florita Bell Griffin. We're talking about art. She's an art enthusiast, author, and the list goes on. Now, I want to ask you this question. What type of perseverance did it take for you to do what it is that you have done?
Well, wow, that's a great question. The deal is, I didn't know how to do any of this when I started.
Yeah.
And so it's been a learning process, a prayerful learning process.
Okay.
But because I love it so much, when you're passionate about something, it doesn't, you know, it doesn't.
It's not a nuisance to you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So the
one
fact
step at a time.
Yeah, one step at a time. And I've worked with 30 artists, writers, you name it, across the country and internationally to pull this whole project off.
Wow.
The first Little Flower book has already been translated into Spanish, French, Portuguese, and Mandarin Chinese.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Wow. That's awesome. You know, that's an amazing way to reach the masses. That way you're not limiting yourself to who learns about Little Flower. Because I'm sure there's children in other cultures that speak other languages that can certainly identify with what's in this book. Now, there's something else that you've derived from Little Flower, and that would be the dolls. Let's talk about the dolls.
The dolls. This is the doll that I was telling you about the child that is part Vietnamese and part American. This is her.
Okay.
Her name is Tolafara. And but I wanted to do a doll line. There are two kinds of dolls. There's the play doll.
Okay.
And then there's the art doll. And I wanted to do an art doll line. So this is part of the original art doll line. It was sculpted by Jack Johnson of Salt Lake City, Utah.
Who's famous for it.
Yeah, he's famous. He's been doing this for 25 years. He was Bob Marley's mother's personal sculptor, and and so I was able to locate him, and he loved Little Flower, and so he's done this line that has 6 dolls in it.
Okay.
And so this is
one of the 6.
One of the 6, and I just brought. And she's made out of polymer clay, and so he sculpted her from a block of clay.
Really? Wow.
And then Little Flower will have a line of vinyl play dolls also to go with each of the children.
How awesome is that? Wow. Now, you said that he was actually the sculptor for Bob Marley's mother, the famous Bob Marley, who's certainly known throughout Jamaica and around the world. And he was the man who actually sculpted this doll for you? Yes, and he also taught Maria Osman how to make the dolls that she makes. And I found him, and that's the way I found everybody, kind of online. And then make a phone call, and God gives you favor, and next thing I know, I'm on a plane flying to Salt Lake City. Wow. Awesome. Wow. You know, that is certainly interesting, because that's actually how you and I met. Yes, sir. I needed the doll's photograph. She needed the doll's photograph. And I get a call one day, and I'm like, yeah, what are you doing? I'm just finishing work, but hey, come on by. And you know what? I'm really glad that we've built the relationship that we've built so far. I think it's been a good thing. I think it's certainly been a good union. And I'm looking for great things to come out of it. With what you're doing, and what I'm doing, and what we're now doing. Yes. And so I'm really excited about that. What's next for you? Well, Little Flower won't officially launch, and you laugh at me when I say that, but she won't be made public until the summer. Okay. And then once she is you know, made public, then we'll be, of course, traveling and teaching about her, because she comes with the story, and then the workbooks, and then we have full-length plays for each story. And the plays were written by a famous Jamaican playwright. Okay. Yes, Cleveland McLeish. Wow. And yeah, so we got a lot going on. You know, and that's the beauty of beginning a project, because so many other things are born from that one thing. Yes, indeed. This started out as a book, basically sharing your life story. Exactly. And from that book, you now have the doll line, and now you have a play written. Yeah. Now the guy who actually was a sculptor for Bob Marley's mom has created and sculpted these dolls for you. It's amazing what happens once you start the journey of your dream, because other things start to fall into place for you. But you first have to take that step in that direction for God to allow the other things to come into your path. Exactly. Does that make any sense? That's exactly what happened. And just the way it happened for me, who knows nothing about any of this. Yeah. It happens for others the same way. You just got to start it, and you start talking to people, you start praying on it, and then the internet, you know, can teach you. The internet is wonderful, wonderful tool. Yeah, but you have to start the journey. You know, and a lot of times what I've seen is people say, oh, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do that. But they don't start the journey. Right. You have to start the journey. And oftentimes for research and information, the internet is a great resource. So certainly take advantage of the internet. Now I want to ask you, how do people find out more about you? Well, my website is www.FloritaBellGriffin.com. Okay. And I'm on Facebook, and so we'll be publishing everything through the website. All right, and that's www.FloritaBellGriffin.com to find out more about the book Little Flower, to find out more about the doll line and that type of thing. You guys certainly need to support the guest on the show today, because they're certainly making a difference, not only in our lives, but the lives of others. Thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the Ferrell Phelps Show. And for more information on the show, you can certainly reach me at Let's Talk About It 12tv@gmail.com. That's Let's Talk About It 12tv@gmail.com. You can simply go to Facebook also and see our shows via Facebook. Simply go to Facebook, type in the name Ferrell Phelps, and you can see a list of our shows right there. Thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the Ferrell Phelps Show, and until next time, we'll see you then. Wow, I hope you guys enjoyed this edition of the Ferrell Phelps Show just as much as I did as we celebrate Black History Month with my guest today, Ken E.Morris of Universal Elite Aerospace, and Dr. Florita Bell Griffin, the author of the book, Little Flower. I hope you guys were educated, motivated, and inspired by the show today. All right, until next time, folks, we'll see you then.